And welcome into Beyond the Box Score, our weekly show where we break down all the latest high school, college, and professional football news here on Pulaski Citizen Live. I'm your host, Mark Mize, and joined this week once again by my co-host, Chandler Harmon. Chandler, I know you did a little preseason, but this was your first taste of high school football on the sidelines as you covered Richland at Wayne County this week. Just, can you break down, because I think a lot of people don't get a chance to really experience that high school football sideline experience unless they played the game. So from your perspective, covering the game, just what was it like?
Well, it was great, Mark. Normally when you're watching up from the stands, you don't really analyze and look at each play. But when you're having to actually write down, keep track of it, you're watching and you're trying to make sure you know exactly where they went out of bounds, exactly where the play ended, who caught what, who was rushing, things that on the sideline you might miss one play and be like, oh, that's okay, but when you're covering it, you're right there, you're watching all the action, and you're getting a first-hand experience. It was great.
Absolutely. And this week, one nice note is we're finally getting some football weather. It feels great outside this week. I can't wait till Friday night. Of course, just to break it down, last week, Richland fell 16-14 at Wayne County. Remember, for those who are new to us, that is no longer a region game. It was last year, but after reclassification, Wayne County has now moved out west to play in that region with McKenzie. So it doesn't affect the postseason standings there in a Region 5A. And then on Giles County's side, they played at home versus 5A Page. Ended up losing that one close, 47-34. And so I think there's a lot for local fans to be happy about. And coming up this week now, we have a couple more games. Interesting note, though, you and I will be switching places.
We will.
I'll be covering Richland versus Spring Hill this week, which will be at Wayne Hobbs Stadium there just outside of Linville. And you will head to the Brickyard for the first time in the regular season, as you'll be covering Giles County versus Henry County.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it. I hear it's a great atmosphere and just an exciting game to be at.
It was. We had a great week last week. I bet we're going to have another great week this week, but we're going to go ahead and go to a commercial break, and we'll be back as Chris Bledsoe joins me to talk some Giles County football here on Beyond the Box Score.
The Department of Pulaski is here to help you save money. Natural gas is safe, efficient, and cost-effective. It's up to 50 to 60% less expensive than electricity for home heating. Plus, it's clean and efficient, so you can feel good about your choice. Call us today for service or visit our website to learn more. Make the switch to natural gas and start saving today.
And welcome back into Beyond the Box Score. I'm your host, Mark Mize, joined by Chris Bledsoe. Chris and I both had a chance to take in some Giles County football at the Brickyard Friday night, as it was the season opener versus 5A Page. You'd mentioned last week, Page, had played in 4 straight state championships at the 5A level, yet to win their first one. I think coming in, the atmosphere was, hey, how is Giles going to play versus a team that, is an established program? And I think at the end of the night, I think a lot of Giles County fans, you're never happy with a loss, but I think a lot of them were very optimistic with the results, Chris.
Yeah, without a doubt. Had a chance to obviously see him play Friday night and interviewed head coach David O'Connor, and we talked about the game, like post game, obviously his takeaways and what he thought. And one of the first things he said was, there are no moral victories.
Right.
And I understand that wholeheartedly, and I understand him being in his position, he's got to make that statement. But if there was ever a loss where I left the Brickyard excited, it was Friday night. What we saw from the Bobcat team as a whole, and especially what we saw from the Bobcat offense, absolutely phenomenal. Again, you want to win those games. You want to be able to win. But I told you here Wednesday, last time we were together, that we wanted to be able to compete in that ball game and to see what we had. It's kind of a measuring stick, if you will. And what they were able to do Friday night, it started off a little shaky, started off slow. The offense started to come along. We found some tremendous things offensively, in the air, on the ground. I mean, it was just a microcosm of things that I think that offense can do this season. If you can do that against a 4-time 5A runner-up in Page, there's no telling what you can accomplish at the 3A level. So super excited from what we saw from them on Friday night. Again, I'm all about winning, but if I had to say, that was the prettiest loss I've ever seen in Bobcat football history.
Definitely. You think about a game in which you come in, last year, Page was a defensive juggernaut, probably the best in 5A in the state. And you come in, you score 5 touchdowns on 8 possessions. you pass for over 200 yards, you rush for over 200 yards. I mean, Xavier Randolph and David Bridges, even before we talk about the line and the receivers, the two of them, I think, had a little bit of a coming out party. I know Randolph had a great year last year, but come out, throw for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns versus a Page defense, I mean, that's unbelievable.
It was phenomenal to watch, and a lot of that starts with what X Randolph was able to do. You kind of looking at possession by possession. They come out, we try to run the ball. Again, that's been OC's mantra and been his identity for as long as I can remember. Ground game really wasn't there, and so had to put the ball in X Randolph's hand, let him try to toss it around a little bit. He found multiple wide receivers throughout the ball game, guys that some of those names we've heard of very vaguely, some of those we've never heard of when it comes to Bobcat football. He just did a good job of spreading around all night and finding some of those guys and creating some of those opportunities. What he was able to do really then opened up what we were able to do on the run game. Again, X was able to find a couple passing touchdowns, the first being the one to Jazz Bentley. And if you weren't there at the Brickyard, you missed it. It was a 4th down play, if I'm not mistaken, and we're wondering, he starts to roll out of the pocket, and I'm thinking he's about to get sacked, and all of a sudden he launches it to the end zone, and where we are in the press box, Mark, you can't even see anybody back there. Jazz Bentley, heck of a wide receiver, but not much in stature as far as height's concerned, and I'm like, where is he throwing the ball? And out of nowhere, you see Jazz start to elevate off the ground. He catches it, kind of contorts his body, makes the catch. I could almost hear, like, I Believe I Can Fly playing in the background, as it was like a Titanic music happening in the background. Just an amazing moment. The Brickyard goes nuts, and all of a sudden, these young kids who were unsure of where they were started to gain some confidence after that. And then again, we saw him make a couple of more passing touchdowns. And then there was one particular play. You mentioned David Bridges.
Right.
He catches a little swing pass out of the backfield. He catches it. He's running to the opposite sideline from where we are in the press box. He gets to almost the first down marker, and he lowers his shoulder and just levels the cornerback out there. I don't know if he did it on purpose. It was accidental, just like second nature. But it was after that play where we started to see David Bridges just kind of have a coming out party. It was almost like this is still just football. And let me get back to what I know. We knew he was a good athlete coming out of South Giles, and he's really translating over here to the high school level. He had a phenomenal ball game, over 20 plus carries, a $175 on the ground. Again, just what he was able to do by his lonesome was phenomenal, especially in his first outing as a starting tailback in high school football.
And I'll tell you, if I had known better, because I'd seen Giles 3 times last year, I would have guessed that Caleb Oates was a junior last year, and that was him out there playing football again.
Listen,
179 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, had that really nice first down catch, and carried the ball 29 times. I think in the future, they don't want to have him in that situation because Pearson Collier will be back from injury. And, they're going to play some Wildcat with him, get him some rushing opportunities as a senior there. But Bridges and the offensive line, to do that versus a Page defensive line that looked like an NAIA college defensive line.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievable.
It was phenomenal to see and what they were able to do, especially, again, you don't think about it, but 29 touches is a lot of touches.
It is.
Those are Derrick Henry, early Titans type numbers, where it's like they're handing it to Henry again. That's what it felt like with David Bridges. And again, 29 carries, but then to have a quarterback that throws over 200 yards with a tailback that had 29 carries. Again, it was just kind of phenomenal to see what they were able to do offensively and how he, again, just kind of began to fill it out. And then a lot of that is credited to what we talked about X Randolph and what we talked about with David Bridges. A lot of that credit falls on the Hog Mollies up front. What that offensive line was able to do Friday night against, again, you mentioned a Division II, Division III NAIA size defensive line. Absolutely phenomenal. Those Carter Garrett was one of those guys, plays tackle, has really kind of become a leader out there. Bryce Rivers, another one of those guys. They just did a marvelous job up front, and they just kind of started to lean on that big defensive line from Page. And again, they just did a good job of creating pockets for X Randolph. And then when they start pulling, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to see a scary sight, come to the Brickyard and you watch 63 and 55 pulling out there to a free safety or outside linebacker. Absolutely terrible place to be on Friday night when you see 55 headed your direction with a head of steam. And he did a good job all night getting out there, kicking out blocks. Bridges was really patient, allowing the blocks to develop, and then it turned into one big play after the other. It was absolutely amazing to watch offensively. And again, you can hear the excitement in my voice. I'm already teetering and jittery about what's coming Friday night.
Absolutely. And so Bobcats put up 34 points on 5A Page. We'll actually get a chance to hear now from David O'Connor, who we caught after the game, for some quick thoughts about last week's close loss at the Brickyard and what's coming up this next week in Friday's home game versus another 5A Patriots team. So back in a second after we hear from Coach O'Connor. So ended up losing this one here tonight, but a lot of good things. Just what are your initial thoughts overall after tonight's game?
Well, going in, we knew this was going to be a really tough football game either way, but going in, we knew we had a good shot. I thought going in, we had a great offensive game plan. We felt like we had a really good defensive game plan. Now, you get in the middle of a game, and they also have a game plan. So, I mean, you got to be able to combat a little bit what they do. And they were better in some spots than we kind of anticipated, and they made us pay in those spots. We got to do a better job of recognizing that early and making some adjustments. I felt like we were trying to do, and defensively we tried a lot of different things. Coach Holly and Coach Thomas and Big Joe and those guys over on the defensive side of the ball do a really good job of preparing every week. We got to do a little bit better job and be a little more physical at the point of attack.
And really, just first offensively, I know in the preseason it took you guys a little time to get started, but Randolph had 200 passing yards tonight. Honestly, I think Bridges kind of did his best Caleb Oates impression. Just how did you feel about the offense and the offensive line? I
felt like we had a good game, but going in, we knew that Page was a little better offensively than they were defensively. Now, last year they were phenomenal defensively. This year they kind of flipped the script a little bit. And at the end of the day, I felt like we got them a little tired. We weren't able to capitalize on it when we needed to.
And then defensively, did some good things, but they were averaging about 20 yards a pass. Just, I know you probably won't see many teams like that pass like that this year, but what do you think you can do going forward to kind of mitigate that?
Well, first of all, we got to get a little pressure on the quarterback. A little pressure on the quarterback. It seemed like everything was so easy for him because we didn't have nobody coming at him a lot. So we got to do a better job of getting pressure on the quarterback. Then we got to do a better job of in DBs just staying in phase and not losing their man. The quarterback breaks the pocket a little bit. Our DBs playing a man coverage at some points, get their eyes back, lose the receiver, and then it comes back to bite you.
And then finally, just kind of what's the general feeling around the team after you came so close tonight, ended up losing to a 5A squad? Just what's the feeling around the program going forward?
All right. The good thing about our kids is we work pretty much all the time, whether it be weight room, conditioning, all those type of things. Our kids are mentally tough and fairly battle tested. Those guys played in, all those guys that were out there tonight played in a lot of games last year, and they're ready to go again. So.
And what do you think you'll see from another 5A team in Henry County next week?
I think they're going to be really physical at the point of attack, offensively and defensively. It's going to be, to me, maybe a little more of a challenge than this week.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.
And once again, you just heard from Coach O'Connor about the Giles County Bobcats and their game last week versus Page in the upcoming game versus Henry County. So let's talk just a little more about last week's season opener versus Page. Defensively, that is the one area I think they did some good things in the defensive line play and the linebackers, but you kind of have to feel like missing the senior captain, Pearson Collier, at safety. I'm not going to say he would have made all the plays, but just having that stabilizing presence may have made a difference in a game in which, Page threw for over 20 yards per attempt. They really, really were able to carve up the Bobcats in that one area. And, that was kind of the tail of the tape as Page scored on their first 7 offensive possessions.
You're exactly right, Mark. And thinking about the Bobcats and obviously missing Pearson Collier, he's a huge asset to the Bobcat defense, what he's able to do more or less because he's a kid that plays sideline to sideline. He reminds you of the old – anybody remember Bob Sanders used to play for the Indianapolis Colts with the dread? That's what Pearson reminds you of. Not really big in stature, but when he arrives to the ball, you're going to know that he's there. He just does a good job sideline to sideline, really plays all over the field. And so the Bobcat defense is contorted and fixed so that Pearson is able to make a lot of those plays defensively. And so not having him, it was just difficult with him not having him being out there on the field. Braylon Bledsoe, a freshman, another South Giles Eagle standout, did a good job in his first appearance, first outing out there. But and if you don't know, for our listeners, going from middle school football to high school football is absolutely night and day. And so a lot of learning to be done there, but again, getting Pearson back, I think, will cure some of the things we found there. And then at the bottom line, we have to address the elephant in the room. Page threw the ball absolutely all over the field.
Yeah.
They said Page just found another wide receiver open a few minutes ago, and the game was last week. So again, it's been a struggle again in the secondary. But I think guys like Cooper White and Jack Reese are guys that take stuff like that personal. and they'll look back on that film. I think they'll hold themselves accountable because they're two seniors and two cornerbacks that have played a lot of reps for Giles County on the defensive side of the ball. Again, I think it's something they'll look at and say, we can be better and look to improve on what happened last week. I think get back to business. Henry County is going to bring a different style of football, almost similar to what we're going to see from the Bobcats as far as physicality is concerned. Not much like Page. Page is the old Dallas Cowboys 5 wide, really spread around the field and throw it all night. And so they did a good job of that. And again, our secondary just has to be better. Getting Pearson back will help. Again, guys like Braylon Bledsoe that played as a freshman, having him with one game under your belt, I think will be beneficial. And then, again, what happened to Cooper and what happened to Jack Reese, I think they'll look at that and, again, take it personal. Again, and thinking that, we're better than this, and they were going to want to go out and show that this coming week. So, again, I expect them to be much improved. Also, I've said it for as many years he's been to have the job. Tanner Holly, in my humble heart, is the best defensive coordinator this side of the Mississippi River. Again, I'll say it with anybody. He does a great job of making adjustments. We saw that even Friday night. Again, Page had a lot of success in the air in the first half. Those numbers dwindled quite a bit in the second half. Again, making some adjustments. And then he does just a terrific job of getting his kids to buy in to what he's selling. And that's what high school football and coaching is all about. Kids have to believe in what you're saying. I think he does a good job of convincing that. So that's why I think what we're going to see from the Bobcat defense Friday night, I don't know if you'll even recognize this team we'll see defensively Friday compared to what we saw last week.
And that was the one thing that was so surprising. If you came into that game and told me Giles is going to put up 34, I probably would have predicted a Giles victory because the preseason, the defense had really been the strength of this team. And that's one thing I liked about what O'Connor said to you guys after the game for WKSR was, in that situation, he said, the defense was struggling, offense has to pick them up. That's what you're hoping is, especially on a senior-laden defense, is that someone's going to pick somebody up. And so I really agree with you that I think that, they need to get a little more pressure on the quarterback. That was part of it, is you get more pressure and the secondary looks a little better. But overall,
in those guys' defense, not to cut you off, Mark, but in their defense, you mentioned the size of the defensive line, but I don't know if anybody noticed, but the offensive line was almost bigger than the defensive line that Page had. You're talking guys that are 6 foot plus, a couple of those 290, 285. Those are huge kids at the high school level. And so, again, some of that size-wise we struggle, but I think we'll be better as the season progresses in that aspect. But you're right, getting pressure on those quarterbacks I think will help. Henry County is going to bring a quarterback that likes to tote it a little bit more than what Page did. So again, now you have to kind of adjust. Now you're not trying to get upfield. You have to be disciplined and play your area, play your zone. And so kind of contain in that regard. But I think you'll see a much improved ball club come Friday night, especially those guys like Braylon Davis, who stands there at defensive tackle. He's probably 270, but he's 5'4" on his best day with steel-toe boots on. 5'4". There was one of those guards, I believe, one of the tackles, so like 6'3". That's almost a foot taller than poor, Braylon. And so again, it's just things like that you see when you have a 5A ball club playing a 3A ball club. You think those things, but I think our guys did a really good job second half, bouncing back and trying to recover from what happened in the first half.
So this Friday night, Giles County has another home matchup versus another 5A team that are also the Patriots. This time it's going to be Henry County, and so should be a great one. Of course, we're going to be bringing you the coverage in terms of photos, obviously our game recaps and social media posts, but bringing you the game in terms of a broadcast will be Chris Bledsoe and JP Plant. So real quick, before we let you go, just a chance to shout out what you guys do in terms of y'all's coaches show and your weekly broadcasts.
Thank you so much for that. Like you said, Mark, we will be there. Coverage will begin at 6:30. You'll be able to hear us live at the Brickyard, myself along with JP Plant, bringing you exclusive Bobcat football each and every Friday night. We do have a coaches show that we do on Mondays at Kathy's Tavern. That begins at 7 p.m. We have players there, coaches there. Come on out to Kathy's. There's great food, a great atmosphere. You get a chance to kind of see us in person. I'm not sure if I have a face for television. They say that's probably why I'm on the radio, because I've got a face for radio. But you'll get a chance to see us live and in color. We're there in person. We'd love to have you there. Again, you get there and they have wonderful burgers. There's wonderful food there. And for those who can, again, get their show. We love to have you. And then, like I said, we do a post-game show each and every Friday night there at the Brickyard as well. So, again, just tune in 100.9 or WKSR.com. You can hear us each and every Friday night. We'll love to have you. Look forward to seeing you down there at the Brickyard. It's always good to kind of look down there on the field and see Mark Mize chasing the play with the camera. Like, that's not an easy job. I don't know if y'all know, but those cameras are not lightweight. And Mark just slings it around and gets downfield like you wouldn't believe. So, man, it's always good to see you, partner.
Hey, appreciate you, man. So once again, WKSR has the broadcast. We have the coverage as well for Giles County versus Henry County this week at Sam Davis Stadium, the Brickyard, as Wade Neely affectionately calls it. And so real quick, we're going to turn it over to Scott Stewart, who had a chance to talk to Giles County principal and assistant coach Don Thomas about some things happening right now in the Giles County school system in general. So back in a moment on Pulaski Citizens Beyond the Box Score.
Let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255.
Hey, Scott Stewart here, guys, and I am with Mr. Thomas here, Don Thomas at Giles County High School, and we're going to start a feature this year that we hope that'll continue to go on, because we wanted to kind of highlight things that go on at our local schools outside of just the sports. We love the sports, we love the football, and we also want to highlight some of the things that are going on at Giles County High School and Richland High School outside of just the sports. And we'll also probably include some sports too, because we like that as well. Jennifer Hawkins is going to be talking to Mr. Landers up there, and I'm going to talk to Mr. Thomas here, and we'll stretch this thing out. Before long, we'll be hopefully talking to students, looking at some of the things that are going on in Giles County High School in Richland each week. Mr. Thomas, I was just hoping maybe you would tell us how the school year's gotten started so far this year.
The school year's going well. We've got a few things that have changed, cell phones, things like that.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. Working on our attendance really hard and everything, because, being present is going to help with our educational background.
Absolutely.
And, so it's just a few new rules for the kids or the students. And it's an adjustment for the faculty as well as the students.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, we've heard about, I don't think we've had near as much of a uproar about some of the stuff as some of our surrounding counties have. But on the news side of things, we've heard about the attendance policies and the cell phone policies. Has that gone pretty well so far?
So far, it's going well. The students are adapting.
Yeah.
Which is always an adaptation, because there's a change that had to be made, and our laws and policies were passed down. They were passed down to us, and we're giving those to the students, and we're walking that line, and we're trying to adjust. We're trying to do that. We're trying to be with them and to go through that change. And it's hard to go cold turkey. It is. It's hard to go cold turkey, but our students are doing a really good job at it, and our faculty staying diligent and on task.
I challenge some of these parents out there to put their phones down. That's just between
us, the administrators. I mean, everybody.
We all get really.
I've made a conscious effort myself. I get calls from central office, and it's an important call. It's about a job for somebody. It's about an attendance issue for somebody or whatever. And I know my phone's buzzing in my pocket. I know it is. And then I try to come in my office before I answer it, because I want to be respectful to the students.
I think that's great.
And that's what I'm asking our teachers to do. We understand that this is a change for the students. We understand what the rule is for the students, and I'm asking the adults to just be respectful of that, and at least step out of the room, step out of the site, step out of the situation, or whatever. Don't flaunt it in front of them. So we're making an effort from the adult standpoint to make it a better situation for the students.
Well, what about programs? Let's talk a little bit about some of the programs that are going on in your school right now. What are some of, just maybe highlight a few of the things that maybe we'll be looking at as we go through the year?
Our FFA program is really going well. It's big, with Mr. Parker and Mr. Anderson over there doing a great job, and they've been on a couple of trips. They've done a couple of career fairs and everything already, agricultural fairs already for the youth to start the school year. And when you get those high school kids over there and they're the mentors of the elementary kids and everything, it's really good. It's because I want to be like them. I want to be like, I want to grow up and be like that. And so that's really good for us, and that's a good thing. And then we've had others, our HOSA programs going around doing, they've had a blood drive. We're doing some situations there. Our student council elections were just last week. So, we're getting those new officers in place, and awesome. We got a lot of great things going on, and not meaning to leave anyone out or whatever. whatever. It's just so many things that we have, and it's good for all of us. Our volleyball team has played, into sports. Our volleyball team has played 4 or 5 contests in what is going to be our farewell season. So it's a situation to where, it's a bittersweet thing, but we're getting to finish out that season for those seniors who were coming along right there.
And I think that's great that you're able to do that for them. I know that there's plans to pick up another girls program.
We would like to pick up flag football, and and our purpose in going out right there and doing that is it's the fastest growing sport in the country, and it also gives in a fastest growing sport in the world, and it also is giving more opportunity, being a new sport, to getting people into college. As in, I think Calhoun starting a program instead of having 4 or 5 scholarships to give to freshmen, they gave 19 scholarships last year. The quickest and the easiest way to be in a sport in that aspect, more scholarships are going to be offered. When the college program starts a program, they're going to give 19, 20 scholarships in one season, which doesn't happen.
And that's some opportunities some kids might not get otherwise.
So that's we were trying to give our student population the maximum opportunity that we can to help them get the financial aid, whatever it may be, to get into college.
That's great. I know another thing that's real big in Giles County schools overall, but I'm sure here at Giles County High School is CTE.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. So many programs over there. We got, and we're working through TCAT. We're starting a criminal justice corrections program this year, and starting some industrial maintenance programs. Working with TCAT and working through our welding and everything. We have more programs on campus right now than when, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I started, we didn't have any TCAT programs on campus. Now we have 5. And so it's a situation where it's good for us, it's good for them.
Yeah, and it's really great to have one right here in town.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, it's a good situation.
And I do appreciate your time. Is there anything that I didn't get?
No, I think, you guys are great. I appreciate you promoting our programs here at the school. I appreciate you always promoting athletics, always promoting CTE, our academics, everything. Right. Putting our stuff out there is a big thing for our students. I'm not a big brag guy. I don't, if you don't deserve a trophy, I don't want to give you a trophy. Right. I don't want to push those things out there, but our students deserve to be recognized for many reasons, whether it's CTE or ACT or anything like that. And our students are doing a great job, and I appreciate you guys putting them out there.
Hey, we're honored to do it. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate
I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
When it comes to insurance, Winterburr and Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more. We work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price. Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterburrinsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
And we're back, and joining me here for the Richland sports section is my beloved photographer here, Landon Hawkins. Landon, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Tell you what, man, long drive out to Waynesboro for that game the other day.
A little bit. Nothing between here and Waynesboro, I'll tell you that much.
I'll tell you. So, Landon, overall the big story of the game was penalty yards and drives that didn't lead to scores. What did you see while you're taking the photos on the sideline?
I will say it's very telling when you are catching momentum, you're going 30, 40 yards down the field, and then you find yourself having to punt or have a turnover on downs. You can't ever build momentum if you just keep shooting yourself in the foot, whether it's a small issue that you're having to correct each play or something very big like a fumble or something with a large loss of downs, And I find it very telling that the Raiders never gave up. It's very telling to the leadership of the team, but also the coaches as well, that they never let their team down. Yes, sometimes things don't go their way, but they bend but don't break, per se. And that's very telling by Coach Patterson and his crew around him, that they have built a forward thinking that just because we get one play and we have to punt, we're not out of the game yet. It was 16-14 at half. And they didn't let Wayne County score another point because they never gave up. And I think that's very, very important when you can't seem to get momentum going in a game.
Right, absolutely. And, speaking of that, there were some bright spots. Schrader in his first game, despite the interception that came in the 2-minute drill, he did really well passing overall. What did you think of his passing game?
I agree. One thing about Schrader that really impressed me was his pocket presence. He just knew where everybody was, and it almost looked like you were watching a college or NFL player, and he's a freshman. Now, he still has to develop because he is young, but it is very encouraging to see that he's a freshman and still has very veteran ideologies that he follows each and every play. He rolls out. He knows that he's got pressure coming to the left, coming to the right. And it's very encouraging as a wide receiver to see, okay, my quarterback knows what he's doing. I just have to trust him. And I think that's very encouraging going to week 2 at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw in the game, him and Sands, they seem to have a very good early season connection. A lot of their big plays came from Sands, and there's some impressive passing from them.
I agree. And one thing that is very interesting is, being on the sideline, getting to kind of talk with the guys, is Aylin Kennedy. He had a very rough start, which is unlike him because he is a very big play guy. And the two of them last year, Sands and Kennedy, had a very good dynamic before Aylin got hurt, of course. But I'm very interested to see how he bounces back week 2 and has someone like Sands to bounce off of and pull defenses away. And it's very interesting and, like I keep saying, encouraging to see that he's not done. He's very excited to come back next week. And I've actually gotten to talk with him a little bit, after the game. And he said, yes, there were some passes that I dropped. Yes, there were some moments where I didn't do what I needed to, but I can use that and learn from that. Sands said the exact same thing of, yes, there were some things that I need to improve on, but that's okay because he's human. They're going to drop passes. They're going to make mistakes. But if you dwell on those, that's where you start falling back into the same old. But Coach Patterson, I know that they're going to come out very strong in this home opener, and I'm really excited to see how they bounce back in week 2.
And speaking of Coach Patterson, real quick, let's take a listen to that interview. First game of the season, tough road loss. Where are some areas that you think the team can improve going into next week?
Every area. We didn't execute tonight, and that's on me.
And then going off that, where are some areas you saw some good that to at least build on going into next week?
Well, there were some positives in several situations, but you got to have sustained execution. And we didn't do that. We let them off the hook too many times on third down. We didn't complete third downs and keep moving the sticks and stay on rhythm on offense. And when that happens, it's not going to be a good night, and it wasn't.
And then finally, next week y'all play open at home. You can play your first home opener against Spring Hill. What do you think of that matchup? How do you think the team's going to do against them?
Well, it's we'll step up a couple classifications against the athletic Spring Hill team. We've got a lot to clean up this week if we want to change.
Thank you. And we're back. And I think now, Landon, we got to kind of talk about the elephant in the room, the fumble.
Yeah, maybe so.
When it happened, I looked at you and I thought, that didn't look like it was a backward pass. And, we're hearing now that there's some people who don't think that either. So what do you think?
You got to have the benefit of the doubt as a ref. Maybe they see things that we don't on the sideline. But there's a very interesting thing when you're taking photos by the action is you get a lot of pictures that are very black and white on certain things. Now, I'm not going to say if it was or wasn't a backwards pass, but it was very hard to tell in the moment if it was, and especially on film and on camera. It's very hard to tell. But again, these refs are doing the best they can, and they call with what they see. But it is a kind of a momentum killer when you're pushing, and then you have a fumble that no one really knew was a fumble until it was called. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard to see that the Raiders had so much momentum going forward, and they didn't really build back on any of that, and just kind of sat in the moment, I think, a little bit too long before they tried to build on their momentum again.
So, at the end of the half, two big penalties ultimately cost Richland the game because, Wayne County would end up scoring at the end of the half with 2 seconds left. and ultimately they keep the lead for the rest of the game.
Yes, it's very interesting how you think, okay, well, it's just a half. We have a full other half to play. But again, the big word of the week is momentum. And when you can't build momentum before the end of the half and you have to go into your huddle and you say, well, we just got scored on, what do we do now? Because you're a little scattered, and how do you move forward from that? And I think it was kind of telling when they came out of the huddle that, okay, this is going to be a very different game than what we saw at the start of the first half. And it was very telling. No points were scored, obviously, in the second half. And I think that really hurt Richland. They are a tempo play style, and they really couldn't get their tempo going because of, simple penalties again. The 30 yards right before half, and then just, 5 yards here, 10 yards there really adds up in the end.
Absolutely. Last thing I want to talk to you about is Spring Hill, their home opener, as you talked about earlier. What do you see going Richland's way going into this matchup?
Honestly, I think that Richland is going to have to rely heavily on their pass game because they couldn't seem to get their run game going. You had AJ Bates carrying the ball pretty well, and I will say, after talking to AJ, he is a powerhouse. If he can't get the ball going, then they may have to find something else to work on. Hopefully Kennedy can bounce back in week 2. I think that would help them a lot. And Schrader, if he can just, tweak a few things, I think he's got a lot of potential. But if he can just, excel his game even more than it already is, I think they'll be really set against Spring Hill in week 2.
Absolutely. Well, it was great talking to you, and we'll be right back after this.
For over 50 years, PES Energize has been proudly powering our community in Pulaski and Giles County, Tennessee. We're more than just an electric utility. We also offer internet and phone services. Our commitment to our customers and our community is what sets us apart. We're dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and innovative services. At PES Energize, we believe that serving you is a privilege. We're here for all your energy needs. Visit PESEnergize.com or call us.
All right, greetings, Raider Nation. I'm Jennifer Hawkins, reporting for Pulaski Citizen Live. I'm going to get to bring you all things Richland. Our first interview that we get to bring you is with our administrators. So this is Micah Landers, principal of Richland High School. And so, Coach Landers, a couple questions. The one that all of us want to know, you were retired. What brought you back to Richland?
Again, there's two answers to that. One, I jokingly tell everyone that my wife retired. And if you've ever met her or been around her, being stuck with her all day, every day is a lot. So I chose to come back to work. But that's a joke. I love my wife. I think the answer that I kind of come to grips with is there's a sense of the competitiveness in me as a coach, as someone who's been around athletics my whole life. I still felt like I had a little something left to offer. And I wanted the opportunity to make something better, to improve something, which kind of still allowed me to have that little bit of a coaching feeling. And Richland's been home. It was the first job I had in 1993, and hopefully this is where I get to end my career a second time. But just the opportunity to come back and impact something for good, the school, our students, the community, all of those things.
Well, speaking of community, what is it that you want the community to know about Raider Nation?
That's another interesting question, because I really want people to understand that we're a school, and it's easy sometimes for us to want to focus on our school and think that we're different and no one has the problems that we have. No one's understaffed like we are. No one encounters our world is our world, and really, I want people to understand our school is no different than any other school. But I do want people to understand our school is different because we very large sense of family. I still feel in this building, even after being gone 2 years. Students care about one another. They are students. They do make mistakes. They do things that they wish they hadn't have done. But at the end of the day, they care about one another. They care about our teachers. Our teachers care about them. Very invested in the community. I think it's evident in anything that we do. We have a following, whether it's sports, whether it's academics. Parents are involved and they care, and that makes us different than a lot of places that I've had experiences with. So I think that's it. We're no different than a lot of schools, but we are different in a lot of ways.
Special place here at Raider Nation. I agree. So let's think. It's the end of the year. You're looking back over the year. So what does success look like to you?
Success is a relative term. I think too many people equate it with being number one. I think success is relative in that I think I, as an administrator, want to see Richland School improve. I think the difference in what the state calls improvement and what I consider improvement are a little different. The state is tickled to death with a few percentage points of improvement, and we get that. We managed to do that. You as a member of our math team have done that over the last few years. Those small steps, those small little percentage points. As a principal, I would really like to look back and see significant improvement, whether it's in algebra class or geometry class or English class or basketball or football or band, or see our band grow and compete, because that prepares our kids for life. And we feel good when we shake their hands going across that stage at graduation that indeed we're putting a product out there that's set up to succeed. So that to me is what I want to look back and reflect on and feel good about as a point of success. Did we make significant growth in those areas with our students and with our school?
Well, we hope to see that. We'll see what the end of the year brings. So thank you for your time. There's more to come. We're going to interview Matt Miller as well and get his thoughts on some things that are starting here at the beginning of the year as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're joined with Assistant Principal Matt Miller. Thanks for joining us. Got a couple of questions I want to ask of you. So tell me first, what's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job probably is just the students and the faculty, the family culture that we build at Richland, and just being able to walk down the hallways and talk to students about games and their lives and things that they're doing outside of school, as well as inside in the classrooms and their achievements and things like that. I just really enjoy the interactions with the students.
Truly a family feel here
Yes,
at Richland,
yes,
definitely. Well, how are you connecting with students and staff alike? I know that's a big goal of yours.
Yes, ma'am. As I just said, connecting with students outside of the classroom, athletics, their personal lives. I help coach 4 basketball teams. I'm involved with the football and soccer. I go to matches. I go to games. I talk to the golfers as they walk up and down the hallway. I try to catch cross country because there's so much overlap between athletes. Several of our basketball boys play golf. Several of our girls basketball players are running cross country. So there's a heavy overlap, and so I try to make sure I connect to them not just in the classroom but in their endeavors and their enjoyments. And the same thing with teachers. I want to be an ear for them to be able to come talk to and feel like they're being heard.
And we appreciate that when you do that for us. So I want you to kind of jump ahead a little bit. It's the end of the year, and you're looking back over the year. What does that success look like to you?
The normal answer would be successful scores, showing of proficiency and growth. But truly, it's just to see the kids grow as human beings, as good community members. We're going to have a group of seniors that are going to graduate and hopefully be productive citizens in our society, be educated in what they want to do decision-wise and all those things. A successful year is not just test scores. It's how the kids have grown and progressed, and hopefully we get a few district championship, region championships, and state tournament appearances in that.
Well, icing on the cupcake,
yes,
right? So
yes,
you heard it here first, folks. So we thank you for joining us. Tune in each week, and we'll bring you all things Richland. I'm Jennifer Hawkins.
When it comes to real estate, Haney Realty and Property Management is the team you can trust. Our extensive knowledge of the market and industry allows us to help our clients with any real estate need. We know how to get results. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, let us put our expertise to work for you. Call us today at 931-347-9150 or visit HaneyRealtyPem.com to learn more. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate.
And welcome back into Beyond the Box Score. I'm Mark Mize. He's Chandler Harmon. And we're about to get our final segment of the evening as we cover some college football action. Chandler, I don't know if you got a chance to see, but there was some college football this past week in what a lot of people affectionately refer to as Week 0. You have the game in Dublin. This year it was the Farmageddon, Iowa State versus Kansas State, and a few other games on the schedule. So did you get a chance to catch any?
I did. I saw the second half. And, it's funny enough, I didn't even think about it being in Dublin. I was like, what NFL stadium are they playing in for their opener? And so I thought it was a good matchup, and it's a great way to get the season rolling. More excited to see Tennessee play this week, but great to start the season last week with that.
Absolutely. And of course, we are now looking at what is more traditionally thought of as week one, where most of college football will get their start starting actually tonight, Thursday night, and then going forward this weekend as well. And so kind of to get some preseason thoughts in for college football, we want to talk about a couple different subjects. And first off is the Heisman race. I know it's early to be talking the Heisman race when you think about the fact that most teams haven't even had a chance to play yet. But just breaking down some of the early odds, all of these odds are via MGM for the Vegas odds there. And so your favorite for the Heisman is not a lot of surprise here. It's Arch Manning at plus 600. Then you have some other SEC quarterbacks, Garrett Nussmeier at plus 900. Then, of course, Clemson, Cade Klubnik for plus 900. Jeremiah Smith, your first wide receiver on the list, plus 1,000. Lenore Sellers, South Carolina quarterback, plus 1,600. Drew Aller, Penn State quarterback, plus 1,800. Another Big Ten quarterback, Julian Sand, will get his first career start this weekend versus Texas. He's plus 1,800. And finally, DJ Lagway of Florida, plus 1,800 as well. So a lot of really young and fairly inexperienced quarterbacks in there. Just initially, I wanted to give you kind of an open-ended question here. Who are kind of your favorites for the Heisman this year? And are there any dark horses that might not have been on that list, but you could see having a chance to bring home that hardware this Christmas?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to start with a hot take and say, I know Arch is the favorite, but, I don't know if I necessarily saw enough out of him in the few games he did appear in last week to warrant him being, the favorite. Honestly, I think Aller's got a great chance. Penn State did really good. They made it to the playoffs last year. As far as, dark horses go, I love Tennessee. I'm going to say, Aguilar, he's a good transfer. Tennessee's looking to prove that, losing Nico doesn't make them a worse team. So I would say, honestly, them and maybe a few other SEC schools that aren't already having quarterback in that consideration might, just surprise you when it comes to Heisman voting time.
If someone, though, forced your pick right now, who brings it home?
Oh, Aller, 100%.
Okay. Penn State has a really favorable schedule, and I think that helps a lot. They're almost assuredly going to be a playoff team. They're preseason number 2. So, honestly, I think that's a good pick. For me personally, it is tough to say who my favorite is, but, I think that over the last few years, the door has really been opened for wide receivers to win it all. And so I'm actually going to say Jeremiah Smith, who is probably had the best freshman year I've ever seen a wide receiver have last year for Ohio State. He's got a new quarterback throwing to him, but got a great pedigree there. Ohio State may not win the Big Ten, but probably a playoff team once again. And so initially, I'm going to say that, guys like Devontae Smith for Alabama, and then, of course, last year, Travis Hunter, who played both wide receiver and defense, have opened the door for non-quarterbacks to win the Heisman more often. And I'm saying I think Jeremiah Smith probably goes 12 to 1,500 yards, and I think he gets it done. So that's my favorite. And then my dark horse, I'm actually taking a second wide receiver. I think Ryan Williams of Alabama, last year he was playing as a freshman, but he graduated a year early. He was only 17, whereas a lot of the other freshmen were 18. You're playing against 22 or 23-year-old guys if they're redshirt seniors. And so he's had another year to develop. I thought he was great. I think they were a little bit dysfunctional down in Tuscaloosa last year. I think that they're headed in the right direction. And so I know that that's kind of an odd statement to say, even though quarterbacks win it so often, that I'm picking a favorite and a dark horse at wide receiver. But I think Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams are two of the best receivers at a young age that I can remember in college football. And initially, those are the guys I'm picking. You can call me crazy if you want.
No, I think you're on the right track with that. Ryan Williams looked really good at Alabama, and I think that naturally receivers do tend to get better with time. So I think that this season we'll see a lot more out of him. So if I would have thought about that, might have been my pick too. But I think that he's going to be good.
I'm surprised he didn't appear higher up on the list. And of course, I didn't give you everybody. I just gave you the top 8 guys who were in the MGM preseason odds there. But should be a great one and should be a great race to get a chance to see. And then last note, we have some big matchups for week 1. I'll tell you, Chandler, I think the playoff era has now allowed teams to take bigger shots and schedule harder games in non-conference play, because suddenly you can lose 2 games and still make the playoffs. And so you're seeing Texas at Ohio State Saturday, Alabama at Florida State, not as big because I don't think a lot of people expect Florida State to be very good. And then LSU at Clemson Saturday, and then Sunday, Notre Dame at Miami. That was formerly known as Catholics versus Convicts. I don't know if we still use that moniker, if it's even politically correct to do so, but those are some really big games, and I think that's one thing I do like about the playoff era is it feels like more teams are playing really, really big matchups.
Absolutely. And Mark, I'm curious to see what that will look like next year with the rumors that we'll see an expansion next year to even more teams getting the playoffs, which means we might have some teams, if they're good enough, that could lose 3 games and still make it into that last slot. So it's an exciting era for college football, and we're seeing some great stuff coming out of it so far.
Other than, of course, Tennessee, what game are you going to make sure to catch this weekend?
Oh, I'm definitely watching Ohio and Texas. That is going to be a must-see matchup. I'm excited to see what Arch Manning can do in his first game. While I'm a little leery on is he actually the Heisman best, I think he'll still be a very good quarterback, and this will be a good measuring stick to see is Texas still one of the best teams, and will they lead the SEC this year?
Yeah, it's interesting that the number 1 team in the nation is actually an underdog in week 1. That speaks to the competitive advantage that, the prognosticators think about playing at Ohio State there at Buckeye Stadium. And so obviously they're giving them a little extra credit for that home environment. That's the one I want to catch as well. Initially, what are your thoughts? What's your prediction for that one?
Honestly, I know a lot of Ohio State fans who've told me that they think that Ohio State's got in the bag, but you'd be surprised. Texas has been a very good team the past few years, and I think that they'll get it done. I think it could be as much as just a 1-score game, but I don't think that if Texas does win, it'll be by much.
I'm actually taking Texas as well. I think they have one of the best defenses in the nation. I think Arch Manning is in a really good position. Once again, I don't know if he wins the Heisman. I think he's going to have a great year. And it's a matchup of 2 really, really inexperienced quarterbacks. Arch got some spot starts last year when Quinn Ewers was injured, but not a lot of experience versus good teams. And then, of course, Julian Sand, the former Alabama transfer there, will be making his first career start there as well. And so I'll tell you, it's good to have college football back, Chandler.
Absolutely. My favorite time of the year, really. So.
Yeah. And so make sure to tune in to our Friday night coverage here, as we will, of course, be offering photography, some social media posts. We'll also have our stories, which will appear both online and in next week's print edition of the Pulaski Citizen newspaper. So once again, I want to thank everyone who was part of Beyond the Box Score today. Our guests, Chris Bledsoe, and of course, Landon Hawkins as well, and our producer, Scott Stewart. So for Chandler Harmon, I'm Mark Mize saying I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy some football, and you've been listening to Beyond the Box Score.